Hey, folks, what's good? I hope you're having a great one wherever you may be. Chris Brooks here with the 615 Preps crew for another edition of the Midstate 48 Preview Edition. In this round, it's Class 4A and Class 5A. We got a lot of teams to get to, so let's go ahead and bring everybody on. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well.
Hanging in. Ready for football.
Doing pretty good.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot to get to. The 4 and 5A are always interesting because you have enough teams that can make a lot of noise late in the postseason. And we saw that last year, obviously. In 4A, Procon went kind of far, but didn't quite make it as far as they wanted to. 5A was a lot of fun, but it's between Green Hill, Page, Springfield, Nolensville, those teams, they provided a lot of excitement in the postseason.
As you mentioned, Chris, the gap is narrower in 4A and 5A. In the smaller classifications, you have the teams that are loaded with talent and the teams that don't have as much talent. Everybody has talent in 4A and 5A. It's a matter of executing, having the coaching, getting some breaks at sometimes, but the gap is a whole lot narrower, and you can have anybody make a run.
Yep. And one of the things that we were talking about in the first episode was some of the changes coming in 2022, and there's a lot of coaching changes that have happened during the offseason as well. And let's look at some of those. 19 coaching changes for head coaches in the area in 2022. Some of the names: Devin Arnold at Antioch, former Lipscomb Academy assistant. Jeff Tomlinson goes from Montgomery Central to Dixon County. Chase Brooks comes over from Beach goes to East Robertson to become the head coach there. Another Lipscomb Academy assistant, Corey Stewart at Ezel Harding, who's back in 11-man football for the first time in a couple of years. Justin Geisinger from Pope Prep to FRA. Michael Stevenson takes over at Glen Cliff. Steven Jackson, kind of the big name on this list, going from Oakland to Gordonsville as a first-time head coach. Grace Christian gets Bobby Miller to fill that head coaching role. Scott Stidham from South Gibson to Independence. Jarhead Sneed takes over at Kenwood. Bill Alexander heading the Liberty Creek program. That first year of school, he was the former assistant at Beach under Anthony Crabtree. Corey Wright takes over Montgomery Central after Jeff Tomlinson left. Claude Townsend at Northeast. Brian Sneed now ascends to head coach at Pope Prep. Republic also back in 11-man for the first time in a couple of years. Curtis Carter is the head coach there for the Trailblazers. Brian Guthrie, an assistant at Rockville under Rick Rice, is now the new head coach for the Rockets. Preston Scott, who was once in Metro as a head coach, is back in Metro at Stratford, recently taking over there. Rob Gallowitz now at West Creek, and Chad Broderick coming from Gallatin to White House Heritage. Guys, you look at this list. We talk about Steven Jackson, but is there another name here that stands out for y'all?
Well, I'm gonna jump in. Michael Stevenson with Glencliff. That was a program that was on life support a couple of years ago, and he's come in and has done a good job of bringing in and getting players, getting people excited back into that program. It'd be interesting to see what kind of success he has at Glencliff and getting that program turned around.
I'll go with 2 on the list. If you'll show that list one more time. I believe it is Scott Stidham at Independence and Brian Sneed at Pope Prep. Both of those guys, other than Coach Jackson at Gordonsville, probably inherit the most talent out of any of these coaches on this list. Independence having a tight end that just flipped from Ohio State to Alabama, having a quarterback that's got Division I offers, and then Pope Prep, of course, with Minchie going to Pittsburgh and some other talent there holding D1 offers. Both of those guys, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in their first year head coaching with all that talent, because the pressure's on real early for those 2 guys.
Yeah, certainly there at Pope Prep. As you mentioned, there's going to be some high expectations there, tough job with some talent there, of course. And I know you mentioned Steven Jackson. I'm still just so interested to see. Gordonsville's a team that I followed for several years, and he's kind of been groomed for that job there at Gordonsville. And, of course, the experience he had working with Coach Kevin Creasy over at Oakland brings a world of experience. They're very excited about Steven Jackson. I'm can't wait to see what he's able to do with that Gordonsville program. I think he's going to have a really fun team to watch this year.
And you look over at FRA with Justin Geisinger coming over from Pope Prep, what he was able to do at Pope Prep and building that program into a contender in D2 AAA. he now has that challenge at FRA in arguably as tough a region as what he was facing, because with the challenge of CPA and Lipscomb Academy and Davidson Academy ahead of him, they've got a lot of work to do, but he has a track record of helping build teams into contenders. So that's one I'm going to be looking at closely. And East Robertson as well. Chase Brooks in there for the first time as a head coach. Now he's going into a situation where they can be contenders in that region right away. So those are going to be some interesting teams to follow in 2022. We're going to get into 4A. Scott, you got something?
Oh, I was just going to say Corey Stewart is another one, bringing that program back to 11-man after leaving Lipscomb. It's going to be interesting to see, how he handles that conversion over and what kind of success he has there.
Yep, for sure. So we get to go over Class 4A and Class 5A in this episode, but before we do, we want to hear from our new friends at Miracle Auto Group real quick.
Hi, everyone. It's Jim Galvin, Miracle Ford, your Ford dealer in Gallatin, Tennessee since 1980. Great news. Beginning now. When you need service, we can come to you.
Our mobile service van comes to you wherever you are, whether you need oil changes, lube, routine maintenance, warranty, filters, wiper blades, batteries, bulbs, recalls, and more.
Visit our website
or call us now.
Are you ready for a miracle?
The thing I'm most impressed with that ad is my man Robert going down that list. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how he is in real life.
I was noticing
one
that
quick
too,
change on that, though. If you would like to set up an appointment for the mobile van to come out and service your vehicle, that number is now 615-675-5092. So call in and go ahead and get your appointment set, get your oil changed, get your tires rotated. If you have a recall on your vehicle, go ahead and get that taken care of.
All right. Good stuff from Miracle Auto Group. Happy to have them on in 2022 as a title sponsor of the Midstate 48. We'll have some new graphics for them just a little bit later on in this preseason before week 1 gets around to us. Want to dive into Class 4A, and we started in Region 4 with Upperman being the kings of this region again. 12-2 last year, a semifinal appearance for them. Macon County was second, DeKalb County third, and those are the teams we're going to focus on mainly in this region as they're the ones in our coverage area. Stone Memorial was fourth, Cumberland County was fifth, and Livingston Academy was 0-10 with honestly, a really rough year for the Wildcats up there in Livingston Academy's territory. It was just it's a bad year for them all overall. Upperman, now, until further notice, it looks like they're the kings of the jungle here. Guys, you agree?
Yeah,
Yes.
And I'm going to be seeing some of this Upperman team this year. I'll be working some of their football games, actually, and I don't see a step down this year, guys. And they made a deep run into the postseason last year. And Adam Kane is a coach. I don't know if he gets his due, how well he does coaching that Upperman football team. But, they've got the talent. They've got a running game. They've got size. They've just got all the elements. To me, guys, they're still the king of the mountain. I think Macon County is going to be better this year. DeKalb County's got some exciting players back. But until further notice, like you say, I think Upperman's king of the hill.
I agree, and you talked about how good of a coach Adam Kane is. If you want to know how good he is, just look at what Sequatchie County has faced since he left and became the coach at Upperman, a repetitive playoff team there at Sequatchie until Coach Kane left, and I believe Sequatchie missed the playoffs last year and possibly the year before that. So Coach Kane is definitely a good football coach. Upperman is stacked. They're going to be right there. Possibly in the semifinals again, going up against a Elizabethton or a Greenville or somebody from up in that Knoxville area. But when you look at this other part of the region, I believe Macon County probably takes a little bit of a step back. I believe 2 and 3 are still the same two teams, but I believe DeKalb probably has that advantage this year to get the 2 spot and Macon finishing there in the 3 spot.
Yeah, I think you're right, Cam. I like, again, Upperman, as Tom said, they're the king till somebody pushes them off. But as far as this DeKalb County Tiger team, they got a really good quarterback in Briss Trapp. And then he's got a cousin there playing wide receiver, Malachi Trapp, that they are really, really high on. I think that combination you're going to see a lot of. They're a very senior-laden team. They have they have a lot of leadership on that. Macon County also has a lot of seniors, but I think that they've lost some players at key positions. Especially youth at running back and defensive back, and I think that plays into DeKalb County's strengths.
I want to go back on that DeKalb County team for just a minute there, Scott. And one player I want to mention, Colby Barnes, their outstanding senior running back. In his first 3 years when he's been out there, he's been great. He's had a little bit of trouble with injury. But now if they get Barnes out there, they've got 3 starters back on that offensive line, some good size with guys like Ian Jones and Shady Rankhorn. Get Colby Barnes going, and then you add the element of Briz Trapp, the southpaw quarterback who's had a year under his belt. He's playing with more confidence throughout the course of the summer. I do like this DeKalb County team. And a young man on the defensive side of the ball to keep an eye on is Ari White. Ari is going to be the starting middle linebacker. Now, this kid was so talented last year as a sophomore. They actually got him on the field at defense, even with a veteran inside linebacker. They put Ari in at nose guard. He had a great year. He'll be stepping back to his natural position. So there's some talent on both sides of that DeKalb County lineup.
We'll see them very, very early out of the year. In week 3, I'll be at DeKalb County on September 1st for that Thursday night showdown with Macon County. That is one of our Spotlight Series games for 2022. And looking forward to that one because that one's going to really shape up, that 2-3 spot in this region. It's going to come down to the winner of that game more than likely. So be glad to see those 2 teams go at it in a key region game in week 3. Let's take a look at Region 5 in Class 4A, and this monstrosity of a region with 9 teams in it.
Oh, my gosh.
Oklahoma won it all. 15-0, had that storybook run in the epic state championship double overtime win in Chattanooga. Pearl Cone was second, 11-2 finish for them. Montgomery Central was third, and Marshall County was the 4th and final playoff team from Region 5 in 2021. Guys, this region, probably more than any other, has the potential for turnover in 2022, simply because of a lot of losses by a lot of teams up toward the top. So, what do you think?
Well,
So-
Tullahoma's,
Scott.
just going to say they've lost their head coach. He retired, rode off into the sunset after that victory. But I think that based on what we've seen this year, Pearl Cone looks incredible. Their defense looks outstanding, and I think that right now, without any games being played, that's going to be a team that's going to challenge, I think, all the way through. But I agree with you, Chris. I think there's a lot of room for who's going to be 3rd and 4th, and a lot of drama is going to play out during the season on that.
So you beat me to it, Scott. I was going to say the same thing about Pearl Cone is definitely the early favorites, and rightfully so. Had a very good spring, very good summer. Returned quite a bit from last year's team. They came off of a state championship appearance the year before last. Had a little bit of a rebuilding year, if you call 11-2 a rebuilding year. But I look for Pearl Cone to be the class of the region. And I think there's a little gap between them and the rest of the region. But the team that I'm most excited about in this region is Greenbriar. Nathan Robinson, me being a Tennessee Volunteer fan, he's committed to Tennessee. And then along with a Knox Catholic transfer in Lawson also joining him on the defensive line. Their defensive line may be one of the best in the Midstate regardless of classification. I really think Greenbriar could take a step into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of curious to see what Greenbriar does this year as well. By the way, it's their 100th year of football, so they've got something to celebrate just right off the top. But you mentioned Nathan Robinson. He's going to be one that everybody's going to be keeping their eye on. They like the leadership on this team. They like the overall experience on this team. And I think this has got a Greenbriar team that's got some good depth. I think they're going to take a big step forward, guys. I think they got a good shot at making the playoffs. But, of course, I think we all look at it and say Pearl Cone is probably the cream of the crop right now. Will that hold true during the season? We'll find out soon.
Yeah, and you look at a team like Creekwood and see if they can make a jump back into the playoffs after missing last season. Tullahoma looks like they're going to have to rebuild. Pearl Cone, top of the list, more in my mind. Montgomery Central's the team here that I'm kind of curious about because Jeff Tomlinson left to go to Dixon County, and now they're going to have to figure out exactly, because they're changing everything on offense and on defense as well. Is this the same Montgomery Central team that went 9-3 last year, or do they have to do a little rebuilding of their own? Because if they do, there's another playoff spot that might be up for grabs in this region, and it could be a wild race between these teams.
I mean, I just see carnage in this region, Chris. I see teams eating other teams and it being a mess somewhere in that third, fourth spot there. I think Greenbriar. I know Coach Elmore is excited about the season. He's looking forward to it, but he also said that if you look at the teams in front of him, he'll tell you he's got his work cut out for him.
Let's look at some of these games on the schedule for this year. You look at like a Tullahoma at Pearl Cone. Pearl Cone's going to want some revenge on Tullahoma because he lost to him twice last year. Montgomery Central at Greenbriar, one of those key games for Greenbriar to take a step up in this region. Then they go to Creekwood the following week. Marshall County at Pearl Cone might be one of these games where we kind of see how it's going to shape up if anybody can challenge Pearl Cone. Between Marshall County and Greenbriar, I think those are the two games for me on Pearl Cone's schedule that will determine if they run away with this region or if somebody can make it close.
I agree. If you look last year, the Greenbriar Pearl Cone game was a 7-point game until I believe right at the start of the fourth quarter, and I believe that game wound up being like 28-0, 28-7. Greenbriar was right there. They've gotten better now. Of course, Pearl's gotten better as well. But that is a for sure trap game for Pearl Cone on the 14th of October, heading to Greenbriar in a kind of an odd place to play. It's not necessarily a difficult place to play, but it's a difficult kind of setting. It's kind of a unusual setup there at Greenbriar.
It's a good place to watch a game, though. I've been there several times and enjoy going over there and maybe able to get back out there at some point this year. That Pearl Cone Greenbriar game looking mighty good on the schedule for a potential Spotlight Series game, but we'll have to see. Anyway, before we move on, let's hear a little bit from Innovate Medical as we get ready to get into 5A. Moving on to Class 5A, we start in Region 5, and Green Hill was one of the stories of 2021 with their emergence onto the scene in their first year of playoff eligibility, going 11-2, winning the region, going to the quarterfinals in 5A. Just an outstanding year for Josh Crouch's bunch over there in Mount Juliet. They kind of left a trail of destruction in their wake in this region, just the way they beat everybody up. They beat Station Camp, they beat Mount Juliet, beat Wilson Central. Now, one thing about Green Hill, though, they did play in a lot of close games last year where a bounce needed to go their way, and they did get it. So I'm looking at this team as like, yes, they went 11-2, but they could easily have been 7-4 or 6-5.
This region has, you talked about turnover in that last region. This region has a possibility for some turnover as well. I believe Green Hill is still probably the favorite, but it is by a slim margin. I look for Mount Juliet to be better. I look for Hillsboro to get back in the playoffs this season. And I also look for Station Camp to show that last year was not a fluke. I'm not saying that they will finish second or first again, but I look for them to have a repeat appearance in the playoffs out of this region, as Station Camp just received a transfer from Knox West that I believe will help the Bison stay in the playoffs out of this region. But I look for Green Hill to still be the class of the region, but it's a whole lot closer. Mount Juliet will be better. Hillsboro will be back in the playoffs. And I also see Station Camp remaining in the playoffs as well.
Yep.
Well, it's again another region where a lot of it's going to, one game here or there could upset somebody's season really, really quickly. Green Hill, lots of talent. Coach Crouch has that team really flying. They've got talent on both sides of the ball. Senior laden lineup, a lot of good things there. Station Camp had kind of a late season swoon that kind of hit them, and it's going to be interesting to see if they come out of that. And how do they come out of that? Do they start the season strong, or do you have a continuation of that? I do think Mount Juliet is going to be much improved. They have a linebacker there, and Ethan Crisp, that's going to, he's going to go to Vandy. He's just a wrecking ball in the middle. But I do think that the real battle is going to be interesting between Wilson Central and Hillsboro if Station Camp does manage to, continue on that growth path that they're on. It'll really be interesting to see, because Hillsboro's got a lot of talent there, and it's going to be hard to keep them out, I think.
This is a region. I love this region, guys. First of all, Green Hill. I think this is a Green Hill juggernaut type team that's here to stay. They've got so many players back. They've got so much experience back. They've got a lot of seniors back on this team. They've got the taste of the success. They want to take it a step further. I like Green Hill in this region. I think they're fantastic. I was just shocked by Station Camp and how well they played last year. But you mentioned it. They had a bit of a swoon late in the season. Can they put it together and have a full season and make some noise in the playoffs? They certainly were, I thought, a pleasant surprise last year. Hillsboro, like you say, I think they're going to be back. They're going to be back in the mix this year for a playoff spot. Mount Juliet is a team, again, I look, to me, it's Mount Juliet. Green Hill 1 and 2 is going to do a battle right there. And I know we're not talking about White County as much because they're not in our demographic, but people better not sleep on White County. They've got a 2,000-yard running back in Malachi Dowell that's back this year, and they've got a lot of kids back from their team last year. They finished out of the playoffs, but they had one of their best seasons in recent memory. So it's tough for White County because there's a lot of good competition ahead of them. But don't be surprised if they sneak up and at least keep it close with some of the big boys in this region.
Yeah, and while we're talking about teams not to sleep on, I think Wilson Central's the other one. Coach Dedman is, kids are always ready to play. He's got 8 returning on offense, including 4 offensive linemen, and he's got a heck of a kicker over there. The problem's going to be defense. They don't have any, but I think they have 3 returning on defense, and that's going to be trouble in this region where teams can actually put points on the board.
Yeah, we've look at these schedule for some of these region games coming up in Region 5A. Station Camp Hillsboro in week number 2. You don't get many region games in week 2, but this is one of them. We'll kind of see where Hillsboro is because they're going to factor into this race in a lot of ways. And a lot of ways they're going to be at home for most of these games too, which will be a plus for them. Mount Juliet at Wilson Central, September 23rd. Station Camp at Mount Juliet, September 29th. That was the game where Station Camp kind of knocked Mount Juliet off of their unbeaten perch. They were both unbeaten at the time last year. We'll see where those two teams stand when they get to September 29th. October, loaded with good games there. Station Camp at Wilson Central on the 7th. The 21st, Mount Juliet at Hillsboro and Green Hill at Station Camp. And then week 11, Wilson Central at Hillsboro, and arguably the game that I have circled on my calendar, Mount Juliet at Green Hill. That is a blood game. That is a revenge game. Mount Juliet is out for every bit of it, and Green Hill doesn't want to give any of it up.
Yeah,
guys, if you want to know how bad that they dislike each other, me and Chris was covering a spring scrimmage over at Green Hill School, and their SI director over there asked us basically, what can they, if we cover a Mount Juliet game on the Spotlight, what do they have to pay to be the sponsor of that game? They want to put their logo on Mount Juliet's game. That just goes to tell you how much they dislike each other, and they're so close together. It's sort of like Alabama Auburn. When you think of college sports, the closeness in location, just and they're best friends outside of football too. That's the worst part. But it's all about those bragging rights.
Yep.
It's a red wedding game.
Week 11 will be a fun one for sure. Let's move on to Region 6 in Class 5A. We start with the standings from 2021. And Page won this region and got to the Blue Cross Bowl and had a shot to force overtime in that championship game before falling short against Powell. 13-2 season for the Patriots. Charles Rathbone's bunch, a very good year. It just fell a little short in the championship game. Columbia was 7-5 and finishing second. Nolensville was third with a 5-7 mark overall, 3-2 in the region. Franklin County was the fourth and final playoff team from Region 6. I look at this region, and what comes to mind quickly is Page and what they can do to reload, because losing Jake McNamara quarterback definitely hurts, but they have an idea that they can still be a contender to win this region this year. Scott, I know we talked to them in media day a few days ago, and they're still feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Coach Rathbone, he's not going to give in. He's not going to give up. He's not going to tell you coach speak. He'll tell you that he's going out there to win, and he believes his team can do it. He's got a good all-state linebacker in Colin Hurd who's actually going to play quarterback. So when you have a hard-nosed linebacker at your quarterback position, you're going to make people pay. You're going to go out there and run the ball. But as much as that is, when you look across, I think the team in this region that really stands out is Nolensville. They have talent to spare. I mean, Colby Walton is, he's an excellent quarterback, but I think the Chance Fitzgerald, he's another one of those kids that, I don't know whether he's Mr. Football material, but he should be. He can make any catch out there. And Samson Johnson doesn't get a whole lot of talk about at the running back position. The kid can fly, and he's tough. I think Nolensville has one of the most potent offenses out there. And if you're not careful, they'll run you over.
I agree. I actually look for Nolensville to take this region this year. Not anything against the Page Patriots, but they lost a Division I quarterback in McNamara. They lost some key parts of their offensive line. I look for Page to still be right there. I look for that game with Nolensville to be a great game, a game that maybe we may cover. But I'll just think I give the edge to Nolensville early on. Of course, the way seasons play out, if injuries or something like that occur, I could definitely see Page still winning the region. But the early vote for me is probably Nolensville taking this region, with Page a close second, and then the rest of the region following up.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Nolensville is going to take that step up. But I was kind of surprised Nolensville took a bit of a step back last year. They've been so competitive since the program came into existence. They had a bit of a down year last year. Page is still going to be good. I think arguably it's 1-2 Nolensville Page. And again, Cam, you point out injuries can change things. And by October 7th, when they go up against one another, we'll see what kind of condition these two teams are in and how much Page has grown and developed some young talent by that point.
Yeah, that October 7th game is one on the calendar for the region. They played a very close playoff game that came down to the final play last year. Can't forget Columbia here, that they're starting to kind of make some headway in this region as well. They'll be a contender in this region, but I do think that Page and Nolensville are a pretty good 1-2 right there in region number 6. Region 7 gets us out west towards Springfield, Henry County, and that bunch, the Yellow Jackets at Springfield, 10-3 last year, a perfect region record to win Region 7 5A. Henry County finished in second, but they went to the semifinals, and Springfield got knocked out in the quarters. Kenwood was 5-6, 2-3 in region play. Portland was the fourth playoff team out of Region 7. Northeast and Northwest were left on the outside looking in. As we look at this region, Henry County, 8-6 last year, a little bit of a down year regular season wise, but in the playoffs they showed up.
And people don't remember Henry County had a huge lead on Page early on in that game in the semifinals before Page mounted that comeback.
Yep.
And some wild stuff happened there in the fourth quarter. That was probably one of the most entertaining high school games of the season last year, regardless of classification. I look for the Yellow Jackets to probably still take this region, but I look for the gap to be really close with Henry County. We've seen Portland several times this spring, this summer. Portland is a pretty decent ball club. I look for them to still be a playoff team and possibly bump up to that 3 spot. I don't believe any of these others like Kenwood, Portland, Northeast, Northwest, I don't believe they're quite to the level of Henry County and Springfield. Look for Northeast possibly to try to sneak into the playoffs this year. Kenwood, Portland, Northeast, those three teams fighting for 2 spots.
Cam, I'm with you. I like Springfield in this region. And, of course, you can't count out Henry County. But with me, Springfield brings back All-State quarterback and Devin Crenshaw. And that's where it starts with me for a Springfield team that I thought was a nice surprise last year as well. They're a little bit more experienced this year after having that fantastic season. If they've got one concern this year, it's probably going to be depth. For Henry County, last year, we kind of scratched our heads about them for a lot of the regular season, but Henry County is always ready when it counts, and that comes playoff time. So, can Springfield, can that experience pay off for them? They only got to the quarterfinals last year, but with that experience from last year and a year back for some of these players, help get them over the hump and maybe take a step, maybe 2 more in the playoffs this year.
Well, this year I think Henry County takes another step forward. I think that they're moving back up. Now, that being said, I think it's really going to come down to that September 30th game is going to be, that's pretty obvious. That's most likely going to be for the region. But I think that game right now is somewhat even. It's hard to go against a Dustin Wilson team, especially his defense. It's amazing. But and they've got a lot of talent. But I think the story, I think Portland is ready to move up to that 3rd spot and hold on to it. I think that they've got a good running game. I was out there watching them against Trousdale, and their running game is spot on. Their quarterback, Braylon Dallin, he was making nice, crisp passes. They had the short passing game going, but they weren't afraid to take shots deep. I think that Portland's got it. The Clarksville teams, there's so much turnover over there with coaches and things of that nature. It's really hard to get a beat on them. But I would think that right now Northeast has probably got the inside track. They brought in Claude Townsend. He's a disciplinarian. He's an armed forces guy. He's got talent. He's got Jaden Puig at quarterback. He's still got Desmond Fort and Tykees Blanton. There's talent there. I think this team, if they can put it together, can make a run. But I like Northeast to round out those 4.
Yeah, the way the schedule looks out, there's some intrigue in those Week 11 games of Kenwood and Northeast and Henry County and Portland. But number 1 and number 2 will probably be decided, like y'all said, that September 30th game with Henry County traveling to Springfield for what should be a region championship game between those 2 teams. That does it for 4A and 5A. We're through 5 of the 9 classes in Tennessee. 2 more preview shows to go for us. Next up, 6A gets one all their own, just because there's a lot of teams there. Just to be honest. But keep it right here on Midstate 48 with a 615 Preps YouTube channel. I want to thank Miracle Auto Group and Innovate Medical for sponsoring our shows this year. So, for Tom Duggan, for Cam Reed, for Scott Burton, I'm Chris Brooks. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for listening. And we will see you next time with more preseason previews on the Midstate 48. Take care.
Peace.